First of all, I want to address a couple things here. These coaches, I defend coaches.
You do?
I am about freedom. But, these athletic directors, they hire you, and then by the second year, if you lose a conference game, they're on the phone with Jimmy Sexton. Hey, who's your next hot coach?
Yeah.
So I defend these coaches when they look for work. But I will tell you this. Jimbo Fisher may have done the best press conference I've ever seen. I believe him. That's how you do it. I didn't need to know about his ranches, but I love it nonetheless. I believe him. I believe him. That's how you should do it.
I mean, he said virtually the same thing. Listen, I thought he handled that really well. That's what I would want to hear if I was an Aggie fan. That's what I would want to hear.
What do you mean?
If I was an Aggie booster.
He said the same. You think he's leaving?
He said the same thing at Florida State.
Not like that.
Well, maybe not about his ranches, but it was very similar. I don't believe any coach when they say, I'm going to stay, because it just sets you up for disappointment. I don't know if he's going to stay or not. He's got a great contract. They've paid him as well as anybody in the sport. He is building something very good there.
Just beat Bama.
They just beat Alabama. Maybe they can build on that. Obviously, if their quarterback would have stayed healthy, maybe this would have been a different season for them because of that building. That everything he's saying is right. And this is not against Jimbo. I'm not saying Jimbo specifically, I don't believe him. I'm just saying I don't believe any coach ever. I didn't believe Nick Saban when he said, I'm going to stay in Miami, or when he was going to stay in LSU, or when he was going to stay at Michigan State, or when Mel Tucker said he was going to stay at Colorado, or so on and so forth. Todd Graham at Pittsburgh. I mean, it's just, this is the nature of the beast. Don't believe coaches. Fans out there, do not believe coaches. Whatever they say, they will go to the best possible situation for them. And that's not that we shouldn't begrudge them that opportunity, but don't believe them. Okay. What he says at that podium doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Okay, now I want to talk to America.
Okay, let's see it. Let's hear
America, Jimbo Fisher is not taking the LSU job.
Yeah, maybe not.
I promise it. Now,
are you
100%? He's not 100%. Okay. I believe him.
You know what? I hope he doesn't, because I like what he's building at Texas A&M. But you're not going to back me into saying, like, well, absolutely, that press conference, that sold me. Just like the one he gave in Tallahassee.
Well, you and I are just agree to disagree. All right, so I got a couple things I want to get into. You have the Northwestern Michigan game Saturday.
This week, yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, look ahead game for Michigan. They got
Could be.
I think Northwestern, watch Michigan play lousy and give Northwestern a shot to win it. I don't think they will, but this has look ahead all written all over it.
Well, a couple of factors to what you're talking about. One is the fact that Michigan doesn't have the explosiveness on offense to really blow teams out, or they haven't displayed that. Really, they will grind you into potentially a 2-possession win like they did against Washington early in the season, like they did against Wisconsin. But it's not like they're just going to overwhelm you and blow you away with explosiveness on the offensive side. When they lost Ronnie Bell, their best wide receiver early in the season, the first game of the season, they lost that ability to overwhelm you with explosive plays. And then you face a team like Northwestern, who's inherently gritty and inherently wants to get into one of those phone booth, muddy, disgusting style of games. Pat Fitzgerald, we want to show our toughness too. So I don't think that you're wrong. I don't think that anybody should be shocked if this is a fairly close game deep into the second half. And the look ahead is real because Michigan State is off. They're already looking at Michigan. So the entire conversation up there in that whole region is about next week. And I think this is going to be one of Jim Harbaugh's most difficult weeks to prepare his team, is to try to get them to look at Northwestern and not look ahead to Mel Tucker's Spartans.
Okay, let me just say this, because I didn't understand the media. I don't even consider myself part of the media. Unfortunately, I'm connected to it. But,
unfortunately, he says.
So, okay. You media people, when Mel Tucker got
Are you saying
hired,
I'm part of this?
You are.
I just want to know. Am I being lumped in?
Look at your hair. You look like the media.
My hair is
perfect.
It's
he's got
today,
perfect hair. Perfect skin. It's, discouraging. So the point
Joy's mad about the Dodger tie. I look over at her normally for support in this chair. I look over for support, and she's just looking at me with disdain.
I don't know
today.
what's happening. Where are we going with this?
You guys look like TV people. I look like a UPS driver who stumbled into a microphone.
You're not Sky Bannister today.
Okay, so the point is, when Mel Tucker got hired, I was like, this is going to be a home run. And the media, the response was so lukewarm, and I'm like, presence, can build a staff, a man's man, kids love him, dad's going to think he's cool. Shocker, he's hitting it out of the park. Now, here's the thing. He's going to get offered the LSU job. He is. Because Franklin wants the USC job. Heard it here second. Luke Fickell may be in line for the USC job. But Mel Tucker's going to get the call.
Well, Mel has SEC ties, right? I mean, this is where his nature is.
Okay,
he cut his teeth under Saban, and then he was with Kirby at Georgia. So there's a lot there. There is a lot there.
I would hire him. That would be my choice.
Mel has done a great job this year, and he did it in a year in which no one really expected Michigan State to be good because they had to do this with really, string and bandages, if you will. Lots of transfers.
Tons.
Kenneth Walker is one of those transfers. Gets there in December. He's the nation's leading rusher.
Yeah.
But it's that toughness and presence that you're talking about that was starting to help Colorado become a tougher team.
Thank you.
And then he goes to Michigan State. He's done that there. He certainly has that. The only thing that I would throw at you is we haven't seen him really win as a head coach. He's doing it now, and we'll see how this November winds up. Remember, they still have to play Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. So this 7-0 right now could turn into something very great. It could turn into something very different by the end of the year.
They're going to beat Michigan.
Potentially. I think that's going to be a phenomenal game. By the way, Gus, Jenny, and I will also be in East Lansing next week, so we'll have that Michigan State game, and I can't wait for that one. That one's going to be...
That's going to be one of the 5 best college games of the year.
I hope so, and I think it's got the vitriol
Where's
of
it
the
at
local.
this year?
It's in East Lansing, so it'll be in Spartan Stadium.
Upset City, baby.
I tell you, I don't know what the line is going to be. Upset. I mean, would you say Michigan State would be an upset in that one? I have no idea.
I think Michigan State will win.
I think that would be a coin flip from Vegas, probably. Maybe a 2-point favorite from Michigan. We'll see what happens with Michigan this week. Back to your original premise, though. I agree. Tucker is going to get a hard run from LSU. A hard run.
Let me ask you, Klatt. Michigan State's a fine program. Geographical footprint. They can't build a roster to win a national title. Saban was winning 7 games a year. In the end, LSU calls. You are the...
LSU is a far better job than Michigan State.
But that doesn't mean you always take it.
That doesn't mean you always take it. Now, it would be the second time Michigan State lost a head coach to LSU because Nick Saban went from Michigan State to LSU. By the way, quick aside, the 2 GAs on that Michigan State staff for Nick Saban were Adam Gase and Josh McDaniels, which is a fascinating deal when you look at like young coaches and where they ended up being. Now, having said that, LSU is the better job. It's a great job. It's a top 3, 4, 5 job in all of college football. They have resources. They have the footprint to recruit.
Passion.
And they've had success over different staffs. So the last 3 head coaches have won national championships.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to get over, and I've thrown this out on social media, and the LSU fans cannot stand this truth, is that, yes, the last 3 coaches have won national championships. The last 2 have been run out of town.
Yeah.
So if you're not winning at that national championship level,
hey.
that's it. That's
life.
What it is. That's life, in particular in the SEC East and in particular at that location. The LSU job is a great job, and it's far better than Michigan State. Now, whether he takes it or not,
all right.
I have no idea.
Okay. Listen, I'm going to make this brief. I don't want you to go down some rabbit hole talking
Josh
Hawkeye
McDaniels and
football.
Adam Gase.
Okay.
You're going to get in on Iowa.
Once again, I'm not going to listen. Not going to make fun of Iowa. This is something you media guys do that drives me crazy.
Okay.
You feel an obligation. Well, they haven't lost any games. They're number 2 in America.
Wrong.
Alabama
This is
would
a bad take.
thump Cincinnati. They'd thump Iowa. Alabama's 2, Georgia's 1.
There has to be some combination of what you've earned and what the eye test is, right? We can't just go by Vegas odds.
Well, my eye test said Iowa's slow.
Yeah.
They're not the number 2 team in the country.
And they were operating on very small margins. That's the problem with a team like Iowa or even like Michigan this year or even an Oklahoma State.
2.
Because they earned it. They beat Iowa State on the road. They beat Indiana. They beat Penn State in that game that was a ridiculously good game. I mean, they had the wins to put themselves up there.
Boy.
Being ranked number 2 doesn't automatically mean that we think you're the second best team in the country.
What does it mean?
It means that you've earned your right to be there.
I don't like that at all.
Why not?
Well,
It can't just be Vegas because then it's all just about the stars. It's just all about the recruiting rankings.
Well,
You've got to at least allow the games to matter, and the Penn State game has to matter the previous week. The fact remains is that Purdue always had success against Iowa. They beat them last year 24-20. David Bell had 190 yards 2 years ago, 130 yards last year, now 200 yards this year. They struggle specifically with Brom's offense. If you would have let me go to it, I was going to give you the almost upset special of Purdue last week, but that's all right. I gave some other people online. You're welcome.
I like how he says, they struggle with it. You know what Iowa struggles with? Teams with speed.
And then, like I said, they operate in the margins, in the small margins. And when they got into the kind of the scoring area inside the 40, they turn the ball over, and they can't do that. They can't do that.
I mean,
but this notion that we just have to be like, we don't think you're any good, so even if you win games, we're not going to put you up there. Alabama. It's elitist.
I have already acknowledged I'm an elitist. So my dad was an optometrist. My eye test is very, very dependable. That doesn't look like...
Yeah, but your dad being an optometrist doesn't make your vision good.
Almost always. If you go in the history of optometrist children.
That's it. Really? I didn't know that.
Live on carrots and have great vision.
I didn't know that.
Let me think. I got a couple things here. I have to manage you because you go off on these crazy rants. Let me see what I can... Okay, here's one. I
call them avenues of truth.
So, second time I've lost money, that's not important, bet Sark, and at the end of a game, he hemorrhages leads. Now, again, I've always said this. You can lose. If you start losing the same way...
It's a problem.
Okay, I saw a little bit of this at USC, where lead and evaporates. What's going on with Sark in Texas? Because I watch them for 3 quarters against Oklahoma, and I'm like, better team, and then they're a disaster late. Is it just depth and lack thereof?
If I knew, I'd make a lot more money because I'd go fix it. I don't know. They've got a good running game and a great running back, and yet they cannot run the ball late. 1 yard they gained. 1 yard in the fourth quarter.
I know it.
So it wasn't just a defensive collapse. It was an offensive collapse as well. It was very, very strange. And the strategy from the defense, and this ultimately goes, I know he calls the offense, Steve Sarkisian, but when you're defensive coordinator, in the last 4 minutes of the game, when you desperately need... You've got timeouts left, and you desperately need to stop them in that set of downs. They've had a 1-point lead. It's 25-24, and Oklahoma State has the ball. And, I mean, you're desperate for stops. You're calling timeout so that you can get the ball back. They played cover 2 against a team that was definitely going to run the ball. Just so you know, folks, if you put 2 high safeties back, they can block everybody in the run front. It's crazy. And so all of a sudden they just run for a first down, then they have to let them score. I didn't know what was going on. And ultimately that falls on the head coach. You've got to click over on the headset and say, hey, get down low, stop the run, something, because that defensive scheme that they were trying to run late was terrible.
Okay, give me Klatt's top 10, and then I have one more thing I want to talk about with you, because I need to hold America's college football voices accountable.
Okay.
This is when you come on this show, none of this sideways stuff. All right, give me Klatt's top 10.
There it is.
Oh, okay, now finally we got a grown-up. Cincinnati's not number 2. They're not 3 either, but whatever.
Well, I moved Oklahoma, one, because the change in quarterback makes them a totally different team.
I agree. So I would go Georgia 1, Bama 2.
Why is Bama 2? They played a 1-possession game against Florida. They lost at Texas A&M.
Well, because I don't know.
There are clearly holes with Alabama, and you're just anointing them number 2.
First of all, this is not their best
defense. They probably should have beat Florida. Or, excuse me, Florida probably should have beat them in the swamp.
I don't think losing in Gainesville to Dan Mullen's a crime.
Oh, but beating Penn State is a crime, and I got to move you down because my dad's an optometrist.
Hey, Georgia has 11 NFL players on defense, I swear to God.
Do you know actually a great stat? You ready for this? Did I tell you last week?
No.
Georgia's defense alone, on their 2 deep, have 9 5-star players that were recruited as 5-star players. That's a lot, right? Do you know how many 5-star players are in the entire Pac-12 right now that were recruited at any moment as a 5-star?
6.
9. Georgia's defense, 9. Entire Pac-12, 9.
Yeah, Georgia.
That's a problem.
I'd rooting for Georgia. I like Georgia.
Yeah, because you're a front runner. You're an elitist. You see the 5 stars, and you're like, eye test, dad's an optometrist. They're number 1. I'm a fan.
Hey, I don't apologize for my elitism.
Clearly, because you're going to leave a Dodger game early.
I may leave in the 4th inning if you're not up to standards. Okay, so one more thing. Let me support something. Now, people are going to be very surprised by this. But LSU has an opening and USC has an opening.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this.
Great openings.
I would rather have the USC job, but that's because I like the beach. I'll say this. LSU's a better job. Why?
They're different.
Because LSU cares more about it. And I nothing against USC, but this is a Pac-12. They want all the teams to be good. The one thing I appreciate about these crazy SEC programs is I don't care about anything other than winning in football. If you tell me I walk into an athletic department, I like that. I want the pressure on me.
There are two lines of thought here. You have a little more runway at USC because of that. Like I said, 3 coaches
they'll
win
give you an
national
extra
team,
year or 2.
They'll give you an extra 5.
Yeah.
Shoot, I mean, look at what we just had. But at LSU, while the recruiting's amazing, you can't open up your back door and get a number 1 class in the country. You can at USC. You don't have to go anywhere to pull a number 1 class in the country. And if you just start retaining some of those players, I think that you are within a playoff berth within 3 years automatically. Now, to be fair, LSU is in that same boat. I just think that you have to go out and compete a little bit more in that footprint, the SEC footprint, rather than just your backyard.
Well, and also you have to face Saban.
And Jimbo Fisher, who apparently you
Dan
think
Mullen.
and you're about to have to face.
How about that guy at Kentucky?
Mark Stoops.
Boom.
You've got to face Kirby Smart in Georgia. You've got to now Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma are coming down the track where you don't have that competition.
Lane Kiffin.
At USC, all you've got to do is be competent, and you're the best team in the league.
That's a good
point. And
point.
all of a sudden, you can make a huge run. At LSU, that's not guaranteed.
No.
I'm not saying it's a bad job.
No.
You hear what I'm saying, though, right?
No,
USC is a different deal.
I'm going to end it here because after 15 minutes, you finally won an argument. So I feel as guest of the show.
Well, my dad's a psychiatrist, so you just give me some time. He's not.
That's a really good point. I don't have to, in the Pac-12, I don't have to face Saban and Mullen. And by the way,
and get fired if I don't beat him.
I'll tell you, that's a strong point. I wouldn't talk until you're on the air Saturday. I would just stay with that. That's so good. I would just hide for 4 days and then start talking for the game.
That's amazing.
All right,
That's
Klatt.
amazing.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.